From the Ticats Audio Network, this is Ticats Today with Steve Milton.
It's Wednesday, May 8th, and this is Ticats Today. I'm Steve Milton. It's a special day around here. The Ticats Alumni Association has announced that player Mike Walker, the legend, and builder, the late Bernie Custis, will be installed on the Wall of Honor at Tim Hortons Field in October. And Mike Walker is joining us in this episode. Now, the criteria for being selected to the Wall of Honor are very hard and very deep, and Mike Walker meets them all. The defensive tackle played most of the 1980s for the Ticats after coming to Canada from Washington State, and he registered 95 and a half career sacks, which was 14th all-time in the CFL at the time. He made 4 Eastern and 3 League All-Star teams. He won a Grey Cup, and he played in 3 others. And he absolutely excelled at one of the key requirements set by the Alumni Association, which chooses the Wall of Honor inductees through a special selection committee. He will be inducted at the annual banquet at Carmen's on Thursday, October 3rd, the night before the Wall of Honor game against Winnipeg. His last game as a Ticat was the 1989 last-second loss to Saskatchewan in the Grey Cup at the brand-new Sky Dome in Toronto, crammed with 54,000 fans. Many, and that includes me, say that was the greatest Grey Cup of all time, if not the greatest pro football game of all time. That was the Tony Champion's impossible catch to tie the game with 40 seconds left. And then Kent Austin drove the Riders improbably downfield quickly, and Dave Ridgway hit a 26-yarder to break every Tiger Cat heart, and I'm sure that included yours, I assume, Mike. But before going on to a successful coaching career in college in the CFL, Mike spent the final 2 years of his playing career in Edmonton, which just doesn't seem right. Mike and I discussed, among many other things, how he went west to end his playing career and that 1989 Grey Cup, and the hardships he's endured because of back surgery, which left him in a wheelchair for a year. Well, welcome, Mike. Let's just have a really simple start to this. How did it feel when you got the call from the Wall of Honor Committee, and who called you?
Oh, man. It kind of surprised me when Bob Young's face came on my computer. I was like, wow, what's he doing on here? And because I didn't know he was going to be the guy that told me about the news, and it was, and of all people, I wish I'd have known him back in my playing days, because we had Dave Braley at the time.
Right.
And I hear so many good things about Bob Young, and man, every guy that I talked to that I played with, they mentioned him, and and I didn't get a chance to talk to him at the Hall of Fame. I had so many people coming at me. I didn't get a chance to have a conversation with him, and I wish I had. So I plan on this time, I'm going to spend some time with Bob Young to get to know him, because, man, I hear he's doing such a great job with the Ticats. And it's funny how social media has taken off, because back in the day, we didn't get to talk about or see the history of Hamilton Tiger Cats. If people look at the history, it's got to be the most famous football team in football. It has to be.
Yep.
I mean, there's so many legends. You talk about Garney Henley, Chuck Ely, Angelo Mosca. Oh, man, so many guys that went through Hamilton that are awesome football players. And it's just going to be such an honor to be part of that. Means the world.
It's touching,
means the
Mike.
world to me. It's hard to talk about because Hamilton Tiger Cats goes back so far tradition, and when I got the information and everything from Bob Young, man, it mean the world to me. Told my wife, and we can't wait to get back there.
Well, Mike, the kudos just keep coming your way, and for good reason. And just 3 years ago, a lot of your former teammates showed up in force to support you when you were inducted into the Canadian Football Hall of Fame, which is inside Tim Hortons Field on the floor 4. Now your name will be on the Wall of Honor on the outside facing of the same side of the stadium. Everybody can see it every hour of every day. Now, many people say it's even harder to get on that wall than it is to get into the hall. And some of the Ticats senior executives say that one of their favorite days of the year is when they get together with a selection group, which is mostly former players and coaches and guys like Mike McCarthy, to discuss candidates. Part of the criteria, besides being an outstanding player, which you were, of course, was to give outstanding service to the community. you and your wife, Kristen, chose to live here full time much of your career. And I
Yeah.
think, if I remember correctly, two of your kids were born here, and you were
Yes.
very active in the Hamilton area. What drew you
Yes.
to Hamilton in the first place, and why did you just keep staying here?
Well, me and tell you the truth, me and Grover's probably on the same, the same boat that I am. We love giving back,
Right.
and I loved staying there. My two kids were born there. It was awesome getting out into the community, doing service. We wanted to do something every chance we had the opportunity to, and and of course it was right there. And I never hesitate to give back to the people that support me. I never hesitate because they're the ones that we play for, and that's the reason I had no problem going out to the community and doing whatever I could to give back to those guys and make them feel comfortable about us being there playing football for their team. It was awesome. I loved it. I loved it. I, I
Well,
miss I miss Hamilton dearly.
Well, with you in uniform, speaking of Hamilton, the Ticats made the Grey Cup four times, including
Yeah,
1986,
yeah,
including 1986, the year you won it. And you had a stunning 21 sacks that year. But with you actually, people forget that you finished second that year, just a point behind the Argos. And that one year, the CFL East returned to a two-game total point series to decide the Eastern Championship. So you're playing at home at first, which is always a bit of a disadvantage.
yeah,
And you lost, I think, 31-17. So you're 14 down. You're going into Toronto. You give up another 12 points, so you're 26 points down on the aggregate. And then you
yeah,
come back to clobber them 42-25, which sent them home, sent them basically into the off season, and you into the Grey Cup in Vancouver. In the first game, Mike Kerrigan was intercepted four times, but in the
yeah,
second, he completed 35 passes to rally the team. That
yeah,
comeback is still part of Ticats lore. And it's not really lore, Mike, because it happened.
yeah. Steve, when I think back that first game in Hamilton, I think I remember looking in the locker room, and we couldn't believe the score and how that happened at our home turf.
Right.
Because that meant so much. We're trying to get to the Grey Cup. So that week after that game, we were going to play in Toronto. Man, talk about focus. We were so focused because remember that was the third time we were going to be in the Grey Cup, and then it's like third time's a charm. There was no way we were going to lose that game because we needed to get to the Grey Cup to win. Because that would have been, if we'd have got there, it would have been three losses in a row. So we needed to get to that Grey Cup to win, and I remember how focused we were. But when the game started, I don't think people remember Les Brown got hurt on the kickoff return
I forgot
at
completely.
the beginning of the game. And I'm
You're
sitting on the
right.
bench. I looked at Grover. I was like, "Oh, Grove, man, Les is going down. Oh, man."
This is a Hall of
Oh,
Famer. This is a Hall of
yeah.
Famer getting another Hall of Famer
Yeah.
getting hurt. Yeah.
You're talking about Les Brown. This guy was a player. Oh, man. So
Yeah, he
he
was
went
great.
down. I was like, "Oh, man, we got to play. We got to play." So if I remember right, the first half was kind of shaky. We were in the game. We were trying to get things done, but man, that second half, Mike Kerrigan got hot. Man, he started throwing touchdowns all over the place, and me and Ben and Grover, and man, we started getting after J.C. Watts, and things just turned and kept turning, and next thing you know, we won that game. It's funny how things happen,
It
but
is
we
funny how.
wanted it though. We wanted it. We wanted it.
Yeah, you certainly did, and I remember that very specifically. And so now you go into the Grey Cup in Vancouver as the underdogs yet again
Yeah,
because
yeah,
you're playing Edmonton, and they just finished what 13-4-1, and it's still their dynasty years kind of, and they had annihilated, like wiped out BC Lions in the
yeah,
West Final. Yet behind Kerrigan, he was the game MOP. You trounced Edmonton
yeah,
39-15. Grover was the game's defensive MOP. Ozzie
yeah,
was the top Canadian with 6 field goals. It was never
yeah,
close. You led 29-0 at the half, and it all started when you forced Matt Dunnigan to fumble. I think it was Leo Ezrins recovered, and Kerrigan tosses a touchdown pass before the game was 2 minutes old, and it was
yeah,
essentially over at that
yeah,
point in time. The defense made 10 sacks that game. I'd forgotten about that part too, and we're talking playing against two of Hall of Fame quarterbacks,
yeah,
Dunny and Damon Allen. So
Yeah.
where does that one fit in your life? The most dominant performance
Well,
that you've ever been in a game in, or maybe there's something I'm forgetting.
well, like I said before, we got to that Grey Cup. We were so focused that week, and that's the CFL for you, though. You
Yeah,
never know who's going to win. You never know who's
no,
going to win. Anything can happen. And I mean, we went in there. We wanted defensively. We wanted to get after Dunnigan. We needed to, and for a while there, we were putting so much pressure on Dunnigan. I remember they switched to Damon Allen,
right,
and they put him in, and they scored. And I looked at Grover. I was like, Grove, we got to get Damon out of the game because Damon can run. You know,
yeah,
Matt can run too, but Damon can make things happen up with his legs. And so we uh, we got after them from the start, from the get go. We got
yeah.
after Dunnigan. We were getting so much pressure. Things just happened. Everything was coming our way, and
Totally.
Kerrigan again had another great game, and we got it done. It was amazing how our defense stepped up that day. It was
I
amazing.
think sometimes Mike that Mike does the other Mike Kerrigan
Yeah.
doesn't get enough credit around here, partly because he
Oh
hasn't been around here very much. But I mean,
no,
he was pretty dominant, and that brings me to 1989,
yeah.
the
Oh
Grey Cup, the Grey Cup there, and he marches
yeah.
you guys down, and I'll remind people that was the Tony Champion uh,
The
great
catch in the end
catch,
zone. Yeah.
and then then Kent Austin, who ends up here too. Uh,
Yeah.
Marches them down for the final field goal by Ridgway. Now,
Right.
I've said this a few times. I think that's the greatest. Definitely the greatest Grey Cup game,
I do
uh,
too. I do
and
too.
you could argue the greatest professional football game. I covered it. I was in absolute awe of that game. So,
That game,
what? Yeah. What do you recall of that? Do you think it's the greatest game ever,
I think it's the
or Grey
greatest Grey
Cup?
Cup. No, I think it's the greatest Grey Cup ever played. Again, Saskatchewan CFL is about the underdog. They were the underdog. We were picked to win that game because
Right.
we beat them pretty convincingly during the season. And Ken Austin had one of his greatest games, and people don't remember. But Fairholm also had a great game. I think he caught 2 touchdowns, if I remember
Right.
right. And but if people look back, Saskatchewan was loaded. They had players. They had Narcisse, Fairholm. What's the big slot back? What's that big guy's name? Number 81. He was a great player too.
Oh yeah.
I can't
Oh,
think
I
of
can
his
see
name,
him right
but
now too.
yeah. But in the running back, boy, they had what's his name? They had a great running back, but man, they were loaded with talent. Their offensive line was pretty good, and we knew we had to play our best game to try and get pressure on Ken Austin. And so it went back and forth. It went back and forth. It was a pretty evenly matched game, I think. And when Tony Champion caught that pass in the end zone, I really thought we were going to win it right there. I really did. I didn't think Austin was going to get close for a field goal range, but he did.
Yeah,
And
you had to give him a lot of credit for
I
that,
give him
you,
credit.
it's one of those ones where he almost said, "Oh, darn, you guys scored a little
Yeah,
bit," and there was only 40 seconds left in the game when Tony made
yeah,
that catch. And if you were
yeah,
there, which I was, and you certainly had a better view than I did,
yeah.
uh, when that ball was thrown, I don't think video does it justice. That was an uncatchable ball.
I don't think
When that,
anybody thought Tony was going to catch that ball. I
I
don't think
certainly
anybody
didn't.
did. And,
I thought
and
the
he
same.
had 3 broken ribs.
And he had three broken ribs. We find out that later. I mean, that's the stuff of which legends are made,
Right.
and
That's right.
yeah. Now,
Yeah.
that was also your last game in a Hamilton uniform, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, it broke my heart, Steve. Broke my heart.
Okay, tell me about that. How did you end up? I said at the top of the show that
Yeah,
that it just felt wrong seeing you
yeah,
in an Edmonton. They were called the Eskimos then.
yeah.
Uniform. How did that happen? How did they let
Well,
you go?
well, well. What happened was, to tell you the truth, Steve, I tried to get to BC because I wanted to be closer to my home and
Right.
my wife's home, which is Seattle. I tried to get
You
as
were a
close.
free agent then, right? Your contract.
Yeah,
Sorry, you'd played out your option. Is that right?
yeah, yeah.
Right.
And
Okay.
I was trying to get as close as I could to Seattle, so my in-laws, my friends, my all my people could come watch me play because we were so far away. Being in Hamilton, it's like 3,000 miles.
Right.
And, so I was trying to get home, get close, and I tried BC, but it didn't work out. That's when they had Joe Cap was the head guy,
Right.
And that didn't work out. Then the next thing I know, I get a phone call from Hugh Campbell, and I didn't know Hugh Campbell went to Washington State. That's my alma mater. I had no
Right.
idea.
The
And
Cougars.
yeah, so he gives me a call. Hey, Mike, how you doing? You know how he talks. Got a great voice. I was like, "This Mr. Campbell?" And next thing I know, he started talking contract, and they needed a D tackle. And next thing you know, here I am going to Edmonton. I couldn't pass it up, and it was a chance for me to get back close to home. And so my in-laws and my people, my friends, my family, everybody could come watch me play. Edmonton was closer than Hamilton.
Right. Yeah. And you have to do what's right for you and your family. I think
Yeah,
everybody understood that at the time. And the
yeah,
Ticats actually did start to go a little bit downhill a little bit
yeah,
after that. There were a number of other reasons as well, but the departure of you was
yeah,
certainly one of them. Now, you spent some time, a long time, with a very successful coaching career at your alma mater and
yeah,
at Toronto and Saskatchewan and Edmonton. But
yeah,
over the last few years, Mike, you had some physical struggles, and we talked about that quite
yeah,
extensively 3 years ago. And if I'll recap, you had some surgery, I think, for compressed spinal disc in 2018,
right.
and you were in a wheelchair for a year.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, what happened was the doctor said I came down with ankylosing spondylitis, which is arthritic spine. And he
mm,
said he couldn't believe I played all those years with an arthritic spine. And he said, if the only thing that kept me going is I stayed in physical shape. So my spine was good. So later on, my leg, I had surgery in 2004, I think, on my L4, L5. That's when things started going downhill. My spine kept bothering me up till wow, up to my coaching in Canada. When I came back to Canada to coach, my leg and spine was bugging me then, and then it got worse and worse. 2016, 2018, it really collapsed. I had no feeling in my right leg, so
yeah.
I had to go in and get the surgery, and then my neck started bothering me. I had to get surgery on my neck, and but now, spring forward, it's getting better. I think I have to stay up on my therapy. I do therapy twice a week. I go to gym and I do water workouts. I'm in the water twice a week. Um, I have to stay up on that because I think if I take a break on that, it's going to get worse and worse. But I got to keep going. So that's what's keeping me busy right now. It's taking care of my back and my neck.
Well, when you came up here in 2021,
Yeah,
I think you had to use those walking ski poles kind of thing.
yeah,
Can
I
you
did.
talk about that? You really wanted to make sure that you were able to at
Yeah,
least get out of the wheelchair to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. Can you talk about
yeah.
that a little bit?
I can use the sticks.
Right.
But I can't go. I can't use a cane. If I do, I have to go really slow. But if I use the sticks, it keeps me upright, and then I can walk. I can get around. So I really use those ski poles, which has worked probably better than anything for me right now. So I kind of rely on those when I'm not using. The only reason I use the wheelchair is if I'm getting around, a lot of steps. If I go to the park or if I go. Uh, like when I come to the stadium to uh, to the Hammer, I have to use the wheelchair because it's so far, and I can't walk that far and stand up that long. So that's when I use the wheelchair.
You're going to see a lot of, I think, very friendly, longtime faces here or there. You know, they have the banquet the night before
Oh
the
yeah, I
formal
heard. Yeah,
induction.
Jason Riley keeps me updated on everything. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Jason, he speaks very highly of you all the time, of course. Now, finally, final question here, Mike.
yeah,
You were a defensive tackle
yeah,
in a town where the previous defensive tackles had included guys like John Barrow and Angelo Mosca, and you're often mentioned as the same breath as those two legendary guys. When did you start
yeah.
hearing about Big Ange, and what did you hear about playing on the defensive line here in a defensive line town?
Like I said, when I got to Hamilton, I really didn't hear about the history until things just started coming around social media. I started because I didn't know about John Barrow social media, and then I started reading up on him and seeing his statistics and how, I mean, Grey Cups he won, and then Angela Mosca, of course. The whole town of Hamilton knows who he is, and and I remember me and Grover sitting. I was like, Grove, we got to represent, man. You're talking about Hamilton Tiger Cats. You're talking about defensive line. That's what they're known for. So we got to show up. And this was back in 1985, 86. We made a pact that it was up to us. You know, Mitch Price. You know, Mitch Price. Remember Mitch Price? He was a great player.
Mm-hmm.
Ross Gilman, great player. Dave Sauve. We had a great D line, and that was our deal, was to get after that quarterback. That's all we wanted to do, and we made a pact to represent the town of Hamilton and keep that going as a D line, a town known for defensive play, known for defensive line. That's what we wanted to do.
Well, you did it very, very well, and you and Grove have kept, like, you're still good, you're still friends, right? And now his boy's playing, and he's going to play this year. Like his son has
I
come back from
saw
the
that.
NFL.
Yeah, I saw that. He went to BC, right?
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't talked to Grove. I got to give him a call. I talked to him maybe 3 months ago. I haven't talked to him in a while. But now we'll probably stay in touch that he's getting close. Probably, I'm sure he's going to move back to Vancouver now that
Mm-hmm.
happened. So,
Yeah, and
and
that's
you
and,
know what?
and that's where his son was born, right?
Yeah,
Or at least grew up, I think.
yeah. He grew up in
Yeah,
Vancouver. Yeah,
yeah.
and
So
I heard the Grey Cups in Vancouver this year. I'm going to try.
yes,
Go. Yeah,
yeah. It'll
I'm going to
be. I
try to go.
mean, they've got big shoes to fill after the Grey Cup they had here last year, which was just
Yeah,
spectacular in every sense, off field, on
yeah. That
field.
was a great game. Yeah, I saw
It was
that
a
game.
great game, and the music that was on, like, you can't, just a massive concerts everywhere. It was really fabulous. It changed the template of the Great Cup,
Man,
and Vancouver.
The CFL is really exciting right now. It's amazing, and
Yeah,
for a while there we couldn't get the games back here in the U.S., but now we can. So I try my best to catch every game. Every game's pretty exciting. That's the CFL though. It's an exciting game.
right. Well,
Yep.
Mike, as usual, it's
Yeah.
been great talking with you, and we'll do it again in early October. And remember,
Okay.
everyone who's listening out there, that the Wall of Honor dinner is at Carmen's on Thursday, October 3rd, and I'm not sure they've announced how to get tickets, but anybody who wants to buy them, they'll be
Oh, okay.
available. It'll be a great time. You get a chance to talk to Mike, and
Okay.
thank you all again for visiting us at the Ticats Audio Network. Join us again tomorrow and the rest of the week for our daily observations as training camp opens at McMaster. Yes, they're already there. This has been Ticats Today, and I'm Steve Milton.
This has been Ticats Today with Steve Milton. Catch it on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and anywhere else you get your podcasts.